presents, cause you nothing but a peasant. Ever since I was 11, knew that I'd be 37. When I was 13, I was living with no heat. Now I'm living in DT, got songs on BET. Had nothing to eat, my pipes would always freeze. Wore the same jeans, but that's what made me him.
Say man, it's the one and only Jamaica man bringing you basketball, brought to you all by Ism Sports. If you are already connected to Ism Sports, check out my podcast at Unpopular Opinion on Anchor.fm, as well as my right-hand man in charge in this Ism Sports thing, Tyrone Jenkins, at Thoughts by Ty, first and foremost on Anchor.fm, but he's also manned the Eat Sleep Blitz football extension of Ism Sports. Check it out. It's just as exciting. And last but not least, and most importantly, check out that single that I just dropped at the beginning of this video called I Am Him. It debuts November 5th, and because I have inside knowledge, I can guarantee that you will not regret spending your 3 minutes out bobbing your head to that one, because I Am Him, debuting November 5th. So the way that this is going to work, in 15 minutes, we're going to run through the current events of the NBA, and just like the podcast, it is not typical to what you are already seeing online. I understand the headlines that work for one thing or next, but we're not selling location, we're not selling your need to watch, we're just telling you what is going on, and you process the story for yourself. So a few things that stood out to me was that not only was the draft very talented, the NBA draft was very deep, and you had high-quality talent drafted through the entire draft, all the way through the second round, rather. Well, it proved to be a competitive preseason because you had a mixture of veterans that didn't actually make the NBA, like Kenneth Faried, Michael Beasley, for example. These guys can play, but they currently aren't in the NBA because the new influx of talent and the veteran talent that has actualized position to be able to make the preseason pretty competitive. So much so I will speak on the Lakers on this half that they are super critical of their performances in preseason, not because of their location, because people know what they're really capable of. And as we move forward throughout the season, I would like to give a shout out to the Warriors, because right now on this 2-game swing, and the episodes will cover Tuesday through Saturday, if you will. So we're going to go from the 19th up until today. The games are currently going on, so I will cover next week with this coming Saturday, if you will. But moving forward, the Warriors are moving very well with the ball and their offense as they typically do. But what's different is that the backdoor cut isn't the only way that they're scoring at the rim. The dribble handoff is not the only way that they're getting Steph open or shooters open. They're literally penetrating to the rim in a way that I've never seen the Warriors offense work. And Jordan Bell, Damian Lee, Juan Toscano, they're playing a pivotal part with keeping the ball active and being in that offense for 3 years. They're showing that they're preserving Steph's legs, they're allowing for other players to get open shots, but they're all playing fearless, and that's something that you don't see out of the Warriors unless they're shooting. But their shooting is no longer predicated on getting open, it's predicated on getting to the rim, and that's scary. We'll see what happens as the season goes forward. Nothing too critical, but I like that they got wins against quality Western Conference Final contending talent in the Lakers and the Clippers. Back to back them people. What also stood out to me this week was the Hawks and their depth. They're able to get stops, and they have so much firepower throughout the roster that they literally have 3 teams of players that can contribute in a starting fashion with starting minutes if they are ready to receive them. Also, with the talent, back to the talent in the preseason, I like that a lot of the rookies are being managed in that way, where they are good, they're talented, but they're being brought along in the way that they can translate their skills professionally. And I like that the Hawks are allowing Sharif Cooper and Jalen Johnson to get garbage time minutes right now in the first couple of games, but they are being aggressive in finding their spots. The chemistry that you saw the Hawks undermine the Knicks last season is in full force, but now you got Cam Reddish and DeAndre Hunter in the mix. And Cam Reddish is playing with confidence and fluid and free in ways that resembles Karis LeVert to me. If you seen my Twitter this week at UOP, you saw that I made that comparison. But they are something to behold. Then you go to the Bulls and the ball movement. I like what they're seeing, or what they're showing in their chemistry. They're playing well together. And the Wizards as well. 2-0, first time since 2017. 2017 they made the playoffs, and that's cool and all. But we'll see what that is. But everyone in this particular category is playing with confidence. So as we transition into the story. So what is going on? What are people focusing on, and where are these headlines coming from? Well, let's start with teams are building their rotation and chemistry enough to win games. Obviously, they're trying to figure it out. But that's specifically what's going on because the league is so deep as far as rosters having benches that can start, starters that can play the entire game, reserves that can come in and be starters or bench players, not because you have to, but because they're capable of. So what you're seeing in the Lakers, for example, is normal behavior. I would say pause and hold the horns on the whole comparison to the 2004 Lakers team. Like, let's not jump the gun. But what you are seeing is a team that's predicated on defense and rebounding that needs to create possessions at the rim first in order to do that. And what you saw, and everything that you'll be hearing about for the next week anyway, is players trying to figure out how can we dominate the paint and get in the open floor. The tempo isn't fast enough for the Lakers on the defensive end, and that's what's causing the disruption right now while they work out the offense anyway like you would with any other team. Another example of that is what I'm seeing in the Raptors and how they have several players that they're working in and out of the lineup that support what I am saying about the Hawks being deep and talented. Danilo Banyan and Scotty Barnes are two ideal pickups, but OG has grown in his position. Pascal Siakam isn't even playing, and they have Goran Dragic and Fred VanVleet manning that ship, holding it down, and they're not afraid of anyone. Prince Achiuwa is manning the paint, and he has the ability, like Naz Reid, to be able to facilitate from that position. So they have a lot of quality positions on the floor, and they're trying to fine-tune ways to make that work, and it's working. Gary Trent is also their designated shooter, but he's also able to get to the rim when he has to. So it's like, ooh, it's competitive. Indiana's competitive. And it's not because the season is early. It's because they have the capability to compete all season long with their depth, if you will. Most teams, though, despite the ability to play hard, they lack this front court presence. And I've seen that a lot in Boston in the first two games that they have played. The first game, Al Horford seemed to not play. But this last game they just had before Saturday, mind you, Saturday's games will be spoken about next Saturday, if you will. Most of the teams that don't have that depth that the Lakers do in the front court, where you at least have 2 or 3 bigs that can play the front court, and they have the ability to be skilled in the front court. You have times where that rotation leaves the big helpless in the rim. You may have a stretch forward that's playing the 5. Robert Williams does that with the Celtics for the first game because Al Horford is out, and Greg Williams got the start. But you're still small there to no matter what you put on the floor because the Nets and the Celtics are predicated on their jump shooting. Well, if the jump shots aren't falling, you have to be able to figure out a way to move the ball and get stops at the same time. And it's hard when you don't have a big controlling the paint with blocks and just deflections, or allowing people to be like, well, I can't attack like the Warriors are at the top of their game right now. It's real tough with this new rule about the incidental contact. The incidental contact that's going on in this game, and they're not calling it and making players very frustrated, which you saw in the Lakers game. But also what you're getting is people that already are conditioned to not look for the call, and they're making great plays, meaning they're making the extra pass because they're focusing on getting the bucket and they're not focusing on getting the bump, which gets them to the line, slows the game down, and takes away from what they really want anyway. So it's really speeding up the game, and it helps a lot of players finish. Check out my Instagram, Jamaica Man, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let me know what you see, and let me know where we should go with that as well, as far as highlights that you see. Tag me at Jamaica Man on Instagram. I'm Jamaica Man on all platforms, where you can see what I'm saying as far as where the league is going in the story, and tell your own. and join me on this conversation. And last but not least, these rookies are hooping. I really watched the Atlanta Hawks game all the way through when they played the Mavericks, and to the last second, you were just entertained with their style of play, their ability to compete, and playing defense. And for the young players in this league to know that they have to compete on defense, off night, shout out to you. You're doing your thing. That strip for Donovan, that was tough. But, man, we are in a good space here, and depth matters. Coaches have to focus on rotations, and you have to allow things to happen. Don't overreact to the Lakers. Really respect what the Suns did to the Lakers. Cool, right? But don't let that go over your head. They have experience. They need depth to carry that throughout the year. And they're dealing with stuff that maybe I talk about here. They're in the hot seat right now, no different than what the Clippers are kind of going through at one point in time. And Chris Paul is their point guard. So I'm like, interesting. As we wrap up, I know it's been pretty straightforward, but I want you to just focus on a few things as you begin to tell your own story about the game. These are players that jumped out to me on film this week. I don't know what it is. Although Houston, a.k.a. Splash Town, a.k.a. the Sauce Factory, I'm on record for stamping that. They know that. They've seen that. Although they have a long season, very talented, they're going to have to learn a lot. OKC as well, they're going to have to not only fix rotations, they have to give guys experience and let them become comfortable with the NBA game. Eric Gordon doesn't care less who's on the court with him. That is a guy that jumped out this week on film where they're able to just get to their spots. He's getting his shots, and mind you, at one point in time, Eric Gordon is injury prone. In this NBA where they're not allowing for contact to be overzealous and they're not allowing for people to bow over you as well, he's extending his legs by picking his spots, and he seems stronger. I don't know how long he's in Houston. I don't know if he plays a role there going forward, but if you are a fantasy player, that is someone that I would consider. Secondly, Prince Achiuwa for the Raptors. He came in with James Wiseman, from Memphis State University. He's a big, but he has wing capabilities. You want him in your short corner. You want him on your block, but he can guard your big and push the ball in the break. He's an athlete. Like I said again, check out my Instagram at Jamaica Man, and you'll see in my stories exactly what I mean with these particular players making this play. And that's a new age center. Him and Naz Reid are the new age center. It's not about being tall and lanky. You have to be able to explode and get to your spot and play above the rim. Not quite like Montrezl Harrell, who is playing very well in D.C., but this is guys with more girth and more explosiveness because they have more muscle. He is jumping out to me because he's backlining that defense. They really don't have a big in there. Kim Birch is pretty good, pretty solid. I love what he did to Orlando. But they don't really have a big that you're like, wow. But Prince Achiuwa is that guy that will be that going forward. Kim Birch is a quality guy, but he's a rotational guy, off the bench guy. He can spread the floor at times. Lonzo Ball, that guy, he is finally comfortable in the NBA. He is no longer being told to do something to win a championship or to grow his game. He's playing free and is showing. That, like I said previously, that Chicago Bull teams, they're playing, I think they call them Phonim. That's the name that they are going for because the four core guys that they brought in to make a change, they meshed well with the guys that are already there. The new additions with them and Caruso, I would say, they are playing so fluid. And I don't know the front court depth, and like I said, a lot of teams don't have that. They have Vucevic, but I can't doubt them. They are playing very, very together, and they compete like most teams are doing nowadays every night, which I want to, like, a lot of teams are competing every single night. It's not, oh, you get a shot up, I put my hand up, that's cool, we go the other way. No, everyone's working for what they have. Lauri Markkanen has a chip on his shoulder, and he's playing with a point to prove. They're playing three centers, arguably, in Cleveland with those two guys that are undersized. And I don't know if it's working, but that's what they're doing right now. And last but not least, Cam Reddish. Like I said previously, he's playing free, And I'm afraid of the Hawks. I'm not too focused on the 76ers in that way as the fourth best team in the East. I'm thinking the Hawks are climbing up in that ranks, if you will, to be that team, being as though they beat them. But I'm not necessarily focused on the Sixers in that way as they work out their issues. As we wrap up here, please follow us on Anchor at Ism Sports, Unpopular Opinion at Ism Sports, Eat Sleep Blitz at Ism Sports, Thoughts by Ty. Check out the new single that you heard at the beginning of this, I Am Him. And thank you for taking 15 minutes of time to just follow me as we quick break through what's going on and what you should be following or what's my opinion on the game. You be well, and remember, at Ism, it's in you, not on you. It's